I have a friend named Melanie, and she has a content series that she does on, it's called Too Embarrassed to Ask, and I love that title. So Melanie, all rights reserved, I'm stealing that lead in saying, Too Embarrassed to Ask, what is customer acquisition cost, or CAC? Well, put simply, customer acquisition cost is all that you spend on sales and marketing for customer acquisition divided by the number of customers that you sold in that month or period of time. Do that division and you know how much it costs you to bring in one customer. It's a term typically bandied about in the digital space, and it's often coupled with other things like, okay, this is my CAC, or my customer acquisition cost. What is that in relation to the value of that one customer? Or once the division is done, and I know the customer acquisition cost for one customer, what is the value that individual customer brings to my business, either for a one-time sale or over time? The reason why it's oftentimes used in the online space is CAC is held against something called lifetime value, or LTV. Lifetime value is merely if you're in a subscription model, and for subscription models we've all seen them, everything from Netflix to Amazon to web hosting, whatever. You're paying X number of dollars per month, and you typically stay with that provider over a X number of months. Whatever that average number is, that's the average lifetime value for those customers. So we hold CAC against LTV. Hopefully LTV will be greater, many times greater, than our customer acquisition cost. But that's what it is. And it's a helpful term both in the offline space as well as the online. And you won't typically hear it in the offline space because oftentimes something called attribution is difficult. And let me give you an example. I have a family member who sells digital services in the automotive world to automotive dealers and their automotive marketing services. And oftentimes the dealers, since they live so much in an offline world where people walk onto their lots and not everyone's entering everything into the CRM system, which I'm sure if you've ever worked with a CRM system isn't unusual, but they've got a lot of, if you will, offline noise to the financial equation. So when they're considering how much they spent digitally, it gets confusing. And I remember trying to help this individual out, going, well, you got to be able to present a really detailed argument around, look at their Google Analytics and everything else. And suddenly I realized that's a very confusing model if you're trying to explain that quickly to someone. So let's make it even simpler. Think of how much you're spending to acquire customers, even if you have all of that dissonance or noise in that financial equation. So as a car dealer, add up everything you've spent on your sales and marketing expenses in a month period of time, divided by the number of customers you received in that month period of time. Whatever that number is, track it over a few months. If your customer acquisition cost goes down, that's great. Then you know your marketing is effective. And you can begin to flip on and off services within that and realize what's the most important service. If you flipped off a service and suddenly your customer acquisition cost goes way up, then you know you've got a problem. So looking at it holistically for an offline business is very helpful, as well as a kind of being the absolute numbers that are tracked on a daily business or a monthly business if you are an online type of organization. So hopefully that unpacks some of the mystery of CAC, or customer acquisition cost, for you. And don't be embarrassed to ask, what is customer acquisition cost?